What if I told you that the key to unlocking happiness and freedom has nothing to do with achieving more or pleasing others, but everything to do with yourself? That's the bold claim made by The Courage to be Disliked, a groundbreaking book that challenges everything we think we know about success, relationships, and happiness. The authors, Ichiro Kishimi and Fumitake Koga, present radical ideas from the philosophy of Alfred Adler, showing us how to break free from the opinions of others, embrace authenticity, and design a life we truly love. I'll also share how I've been applying these ideas in my own life, step by step. Trust me, these concepts aren't just philosophy. They're practical, actionable, and life-changing. If you've ever felt stuck, overwhelmed by others' expectations, or afraid to chase your dreams, this video is for you. By the end, you'll walk away with fresh insights and tools to live with courage and authenticity. There are also timestamps for easy navigation and rapid-fire recaps to help you retain key points. But before we jump in, take a second to subscribe to this channel and hit the bell icon so you don't miss more videos like this. While you're at it, let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from. I'd love to connect with this amazing global community we're building. All right, let's get started with the first big idea that could change the way you look at life forever. Chapter 1: Deny Trauma. Let's be honest. How many times have you caught yourself saying, "I can't do this because of what happened to me"? Maybe it was a tough childhood, a messy breakup, or a major failure that you just can't seem to shake off. We all do it. In fact, studies show that 70% of adults believe their past defines who they are today. But what if that belief itself is the biggest lie holding you back? In The Courage to be Disliked, the first big, punchy idea they throw at us is this: your past does not determine your future. Sounds almost too simple, right? Like something you'd find stitched on a pillow. But stick with me. The philosopher in the book challenges a common assumption most of us hold without even realizing it, that trauma shapes who we are. Lost confidence because of bullying? Commitment issues because of your parents' divorce? It's easy, and very human, to connect the dots that way. But Adlerian psychology, which the book is based on, flips the script completely. It says, it's not the experience itself, but the meaning you assign to it that matters. Here's an analogy. Imagine you're handed a deck of cards at birth. Some get aces, others get jokers. Life deals what it deals. But winning isn't about the cards you get. It's about how you play them. Some people take a terrible hand and still win the game. Others get a full house and still lose. The past is just the cards. Your decisions are the game. To make it more real, think of Oprah Winfrey. Abused as a child, grew up in poverty, faced endless discrimination. She could have easily said, "I'm broken. My trauma defines me." Instead, she decided, "I'm not what happened to me. I'm what I choose to become." Now she's, well, Oprah. To start reclaiming control over your life, first, stop replaying old tapes. Whenever you catch yourself thinking, "Because of my past, I can't," hit pause and challenge the thought. Ask yourself, is this a fact or just a story I'm telling myself? Next, focus on the purpose, not the cause. Instead of staying stuck in explanations like, "I'm shy because I was bullied," reframe it. Maybe I'm staying shy because it feels safer, but do I want to stay this way? Finally, decide your future self. Acknowledge that while trauma may have happened, who you become is a choice you can make every single day, not an inevitable consequence of what you've been through. Another way the philosopher puts it is, we are not determined by our experiences, but by the meaning we give them. And here's the kicker. Changing that meaning doesn't require years of therapy or living in a monastery. It starts with a single decision. I'm not chained to my past. I choose differently today. Yes, it's scary. Yes, it's easier to blame the past than to take control. But here's a comforting truth. If your past doesn't control you, then you're free, fully, terrifyingly free, to build whatever life you want. And isn't that kind of exciting? To recap, Chapter 1 challenges the belief that our past traumas determine who we are. The philosopher argues that our lives are not shaped by past events, but by the meanings we assign to them in the present. Painful experiences are real, but they don't dictate our future unless we allow them to. Emotions like anger are also tools we consciously create to achieve goals, not uncontrollable reactions. By denying the tyranny of trauma and recognizing that behavior is purpose-driven, we reclaim the freedom to live authentically. True happiness begins when we stop blaming the past and take ownership of now. Chapter 2. All problems are interpersonal relationship problems. Have you ever thought, my life would be so much better if it weren't for other people? Maybe it's a boss who doesn't appreciate you, a friend who always flakes, or a family member who treats guilt like a weapon. If that's you, you're not alone. In fact, psychologists estimate that over 80% of daily stress stems from interpersonal issues, not internal ones. In The Courage to be Disliked, the philosopher drops a truth bomb early on. All problems are interpersonal relationship problems. At first, it sounds extreme. Wait, even my lack of self-confidence? My fear of failure? Yep. According to Adlerian psychology, almost every emotional struggle ties back to how we see ourselves in relation to others. Think about it. If you lived alone on a desert island with no one to impress, would you still worry about looking foolish? Would you still feel insecure about your career? Probably not. Without other people to compare yourself to, most of our fears would vanish. Here's a quick story. Emma loved painting. But once, a random classmate laughed at her artwork when she was 8. Ever since, she's been scared to show her work, even to friends. Was it the love of painting that changed? No. It was the fear of being judged that paralyzed her. It's not the painting that's the problem. It's the fear of other people's opinions. This idea is both terrifying and freeing. Terrifying because it means you can't blame circumstances forever. Freeing because it means the solution isn't out there somewhere. It's within your control. To start freeing yourself from the grip of interpersonal struggles, first, catch yourself comparing. Notice when you're measuring your worth based on someone else's life. Remember, comparison is a thief wearing a friendly face. Every time you compare, you quietly steal a little bit of your own happiness. Next, drop the scoreboard. Life isn't a competition where you have to be richer, thinner, smarter, or more successful than everyone around you. Your value is already complete. You don't need anyone else's approval to validate it. Finally, shift from approval to contribution. Instead of constantly asking, how do people see me? Flip the question to, how can I contribute? Whether it's offering a smile, lending a hand, or simply showing up as your authentic self, focusing on contribution will lift you out of the toxic cycle of chasing validation. Imagine life is a dance floor. Most people are dancing while constantly looking sideways. Am I dancing better than him? Does she look cooler than me? But true freedom comes when you dance for the sheer joy of it, without worrying who's watching. Of course, this isn't easy. We're social creatures wired to seek acceptance. But Adlerian psychology reminds us that freedom is choosing to live based on your own goals, not on other people's reactions. Next time you find yourself doubting, worrying, or second-guessing, pause and ask, is this really about me, or about how I think others see me? Chances are you'll realize the invisible chains are in your own hands, and you can break them anytime. To recap, Chapter 2 reveals that almost all personal struggles are, at their core, issues with interpersonal relationships. Feelings of inferiority, self-hatred, and anxiety often stem from how we perceive others' opinions or how we compare ourselves. We suffer not because of who we are, but because we seek constant validation or fear rejection. True freedom comes when we stop living for approval and focus instead on contributing to the community around us. By shifting from seeking recognition to seeking connection, we break free from the chains of comparison and build genuine, fulfilling relationships based on mutual respect and authenticity. Chapter 3. Discard other people's tasks. Have you ever felt like you're carrying the weight of everyone's expectations on your back? Your boss expects you to stay late. Your parents expect you to have a proper career. Your friends expect you to always say yes. Some days, it feels like you're running around managing everyone else's happiness, while your own life quietly slips into the background. In The Courage to be Disliked, the philosopher introduces a radical but life-changing idea. You have to discard other people's tasks. Translation: not everything is your responsibility. Sounds obvious, but in reality, most of us spend way too much time worrying about things we don't actually control. Here's a simple story. Ben was miserable at his corporate job. He wanted to switch careers, but his parents kept saying, "You're throwing away your future." For years, he stayed stuck, trying to live someone else's version of success. When he finally asked himself, "Whose task is this really?" he realized his parents' feelings were their task, and his career happiness was his task. That moment of clarity changed his life. To start practicing this mindset, ask yourself, whose task is this? Whenever you feel stressed, guilty, or trapped, pause and ask that question. If the situation is about someone else's approval, reaction, or emotions, it's not your task to manage. Another important reminder: respect others by trusting them to handle their own lives. By constantly trying to fix or control things for others, you're actually disrespecting their ability to figure it out for themselves. Your true focus should be on your own task, making choices that align with your values, not choices designed to guarantee other people's satisfaction. Think of it like this. Imagine you're holding a heavy suitcase, then another, and another. Each suitcase represents someone else's expectations. Before long, you can barely walk. Discarding other people's tasks is like setting down all those extra suitcases and keeping only the one that's actually yours. Suddenly, you're lighter, freer, and able to move toward where you truly want to go. Take J.K. Rowling as a real-life example. She wrote Harry Potter while struggling financially, and many people around her said, "Get a real job." If she had taken on their fears and doubts, their task, the wizarding world we love today might never have been born. Instead, she stayed focused on her task. Writing. Here's a simple guide you can start using today. First, identify the stressor. Pinpoint exactly what's bothering you in the moment. Then, ask yourself, whose task is this? If the outcome primarily affects someone else, it's their responsibility, not yours. Finally, decide consciously. If it's not your task, give yourself permission to let it go without carrying unnecessary guilt. Of course, setting these kinds of boundaries can feel uncomfortable at first. We're raised to think that being a good person means always pleasing others. But here's a truth bomb. Your job isn't to live up to other people's expectations. Your job is to live up to your own potential. So the next time guilt or fear creeps in, take a deep breath and remind yourself, their happiness is not your homework. Focus on what's truly yours and leave the rest behind. To recap, Chapter 3 introduces the idea of separating our own tasks from those of others. Much of our stress and unhappiness comes from trying to manage how others think, feel, or behave. Things we ultimately cannot control. By asking, whose task is this? We learn to step back and focus only on what is truly our responsibility. Discarding other people's tasks frees us from guilt, resentment, and the exhausting need for approval. It teaches us to respect others' autonomy while protecting our own peace, allowing us to live more authentically and stay committed to our personal goals and values. Chapter 4. Where the center of the world is. Have you ever felt like you're the star of a movie, but somehow everyone else forgot to read the script you wrote for them? Maybe you expect people to treat you a certain way, to notice your efforts, to appreciate your struggles, but they don't. Instead, they're busy starring in their own movies, worrying about their own scripts. And suddenly, you're left feeling invisible, frustrated, or even resentful. In The Courage to be Disliked, the philosopher introduces a powerful truth. You are not the center of the world, and neither is anyone else. This sounds harsh at first, but hang on. It's actually one of the most freeing ideas you'll ever encounter. We all naturally live as if we're the main character. It's called the egocentric bias, a psychological phenomenon where we unconsciously exaggerate our own importance in any situation. Studies show that when people watch group photos, their eyes instantly seek themselves first. It's normal. It's human. But it can also lead to a lot of unnecessary pain if we assume others are constantly judging us, thinking about us, or acting because of us. Here's a relatable example. Imagine you wave at someone across the street, and they don't wave back. Instantly, your brain fires up. Did I do something wrong? Are they mad at me? In reality, maybe they just didn't see you. Maybe they were thinking about dinner. Maybe their contact lens fell out. It wasn't about you at all. This is where the courage to be disliked reminds us to shift our mindset. Life isn't a competition or a performance. It's a community. Instead of asking, how do I look to others? Start asking, how can I contribute to others? This moves you from being self-conscious to being community-conscious. From obsession to connection. To help apply this shift, here are a few ideas. Stop mind reading. Most people are too busy thinking about themselves to obsess over your every move, so free yourself from the burden of guessing what others think. Focus on contribution, not validation. Instead of worrying about your image, focus on adding value, even if it's through small acts of kindness or authenticity. See yourself as part of the whole. You're not the center, but you're a vital part of the team. Think of yourself like a musician in an orchestra. You matter, but so does everyone else, and together, you create something far greater. Here's a simple analogy. Life is less like a solo performance and more like a potluck dinner. You don't have to bring the fanciest dish. You just bring something real, something you can offer, and trust that everyone else is doing the same. Take a real-life example. Consider a young entrepreneur obsessed with creating a product everyone would love. He spent years chasing trends and tweaking his brand, desperate for applause. Then one day, he shifted his mindset. What real problem can I help solve? That simple shift, from self-focus to contribution, turned a struggling startup into a thriving business. At the end of the day, true freedom comes when you realize you don't have to perform for the world. You just have to show up and contribute. You are important, not because the world revolves around you, but because you have something unique to give to it. To recap, Chapter 4 teaches us that we are not the center of the world, and neither is anyone else. Much of our anxiety comes from assuming others are constantly judging us, when in reality, most people are focused on themselves. By shifting our mindset from self-centeredness to community-centeredness, we free ourselves from the pressure of constant performance. True freedom comes when we stop living for approval and start living to contribute. Life becomes lighter and more fulfilling when we see ourselves as part of a larger whole, embracing both our individuality and our role within a connected, shared human experience. Chapter 5. To live in earnest in the here and now. Have you ever felt like life is either something you're waiting for or something you're rushing through? Maybe you catch yourself thinking, I'll be happy when I get that promotion, or I'll finally relax after I lose the weight. Or maybe you're stuck in reverse, replaying mistakes from the past like a bad movie you can't turn off. Either way, the truth is you're missing now, the only moment that's actually real. In The Courage to be Disliked, the philosopher reminds us of a life-altering truth. True happiness can only be found by living earnestly in the here and now, not yesterday, not tomorrow, right now. And honestly, that's harder than it sounds. In a world obsessed with 5-year plans, likes, followers, and achievement badges, living in the present feels almost rebellious. But it's the rebellion that leads to real peace. Think about how often you say things like, "Once I have enough money, then I'll be content." Or, "If only I hadn't made that mistake 5 years ago, life would be different." Both are traps. Living for the future means postponing your happiness. Living in the past means carrying regrets that weigh you down. Meanwhile, life is happening right now. Blink, and another day, another month, another year is gone. It's like holding a beautiful book in your hands, but never turning the page because you're too worried about the ending. Psychology studies even show that people spend nearly 47% of their waking hours thinking about something other than what they're currently doing. Half our lives gone into a mental black hole. But it doesn't have to be that way. To start living more earnestly, you can first replace "when I" thinking with "now I" thinking. Instead of saying, "When I get that new job, I'll feel good about myself," try, "Now I can find small moments of pride in the work I'm doing today." Shift your mental timeline from someday to today. You can also practice task-oriented living. Focus on the task itself, not on where it will get you. If you're writing a book, don't obsess over becoming a best-selling author. Focus on today's page, today's paragraph, even today's sentence. Another key idea is to let go of the lifelong scoreboard. You're not running a race against anyone. You don't need to constantly prove yourself to the world or to your past self. The only thing you need to do is live fully today. Here's a simple analogy. Imagine life as climbing a mountain. If you only stare at the peak, you'll miss the wildflowers at your feet. You'll miss the cool breeze on your face. You might even trip and fall because you're not paying attention to where you're stepping. Living in the here and now is about noticing and loving the small steps, not just chasing the summit. Consider Chris, for example, a 35-year-old stuck in a cycle of "when I" thinking. When I buy a house, I'll feel successful. When I get married, I'll finally be happy. When I have kids, life will feel meaningful. The trouble was, every time he reached a goal, the happiness was fleeting. Within weeks, he was chasing the next milestone. He realized he was living his whole life in transit, always traveling, never arriving. When Chris stumbled on Adlerian psychology and the idea of earnest living, he made a tiny shift. He decided to actually taste his morning coffee, to notice the jokes and conversations with coworkers, to sit with his feelings, even the uncomfortable ones, instead of numbing out with distractions. No big, Instagram-worthy moment, no fireworks, just life, simple, ordinary, real. And slowly, without realizing it, he stopped waiting to be happy. He just was. You can start practicing this too with a simple step-by-step approach. First, set a morning intention. Every morning, tell yourself, "Today, I will focus on giving my best to what's right in front of me." Not for the next year, just today. Second, practice mindful micro moments. Choose one small task, like brushing your teeth, eating lunch, or writing an email, and give it your full attention. Notice how much calmer and more focused you feel. Finally, celebrate task completion. At the end of the day, instead of measuring success by big milestones, celebrate simple completions. I finished the report. I had a meaningful conversation. I enjoyed my walk. This rewires your brain to find fulfillment in daily living, not just in big achievements. At the end of the fifth night, the philosopher leaves us with a radical idea. The greatest life lie is that happiness lies somewhere far away. It doesn't. It's here, now. In the way you smile at a stranger, in the way you choose courage over fear, even for a second, in the way you show up, imperfect but alive. You don't have to chase happiness like it's some distant prize. You just have to live today, with earnestness, with presence, and with heart. And honestly, isn't that a much better way to live? Chapter 6. Conclusion. After walking through the 5 nights of the courage to be disliked, it's clear that the path to happiness isn't hidden in some far-off place or complicated formula. It's already within us, quietly waiting to be claimed. What this journey shows us is simple, but not always easy. Happiness is a choice we make by courageously living in the present, letting go of past wounds, and freeing ourselves from the weight of other people's expectations. The first major breakthrough comes when we deny the tyranny of trauma. Our past experiences, no matter how painful, do not dictate our future. We are not broken by what happened to us. We are shaped by how we choose to respond today. This mindset opens the door to a life where we are not victims of our history, but architects of our destiny. It reminds us that the past is a place of reference, not residence. Next, we learn that all problems are interpersonal relationship problems. At first, this idea feels uncomfortable, maybe even unfair. But the deeper truth is freeing. Much of our suffering comes from how we perceive others and fear their judgment. The solution is not to isolate ourselves, but to shift our focus from approval-seeking to genuine contribution. When we live not to impress, but to connect, relationships become lighter, freer, and far more meaningful. One of the most powerful tools we gain is the ability to discard other people's tasks. Life gets overwhelmingly heavy when we carry responsibilities that don't belong to us, like how others react, how they feel, or what they expect. By asking, "Whose task is this?" and setting it down when it isn't ours, we create space for our own goals, dreams, and happiness. It's an act of kindness, not just to ourselves, but also to others, trusting them to manage their own lives. Then comes the radical realization that we are not the center of the world, and that's a good thing. Everyone is living their own story, starring in their own movie. By letting go of the idea that people are constantly judging or thinking about us, we can finally step off the exhausting stage of self-consciousness. Instead of performing, we start participating with authenticity, humility, and joy. And finally, the beating heart of the book. To live in earnest, in the here and now. Life doesn't begin after we hit some goalpost. It doesn't wait until we're more successful, more loved, or more perfect. Life is happening in every small moment, in the way we show up, the way we notice the world around us, the way we choose gratitude over regret. By shifting from someday thinking to today living, we stop postponing our happiness and start inhabiting it. At its core, the courage to be disliked is not about becoming fearless or perfect. It's about embracing life honestly, with all its messiness, and choosing to move forward anyway. It's about claiming our freedom, freedom from the past, freedom from people-pleasing, freedom from the endless chase for approval. It's an invitation to live boldly, love fully, and dance with the beautiful, imperfect moment we have, right here, right now.